Hola, ¿cómo está? Muy bien.
Right on.
Yeah, all right. God bless you all. So, my name is Dan Brown. I already introduced myself, but I'll do it to everybody here. I attended the men's 78th Cursillo. I sat and grouped at the table or the curia of Our Lady of Lourdes, which ironically enough is the parish my father graduated from as an elementary student in Philadelphia, so it's special to me. And I and then I hail from St. Teresa's. So, thank you. My 10-minute discussion today is about the chapter 11 of the ideals of the Cursillo, the fundamental ideals of Cursillo, and it's chapter 11. Service structure to the Cursillo movement. And when I said just a second ago, before we started recording, I said it's going to be a little different than what Father did. What I really wanted to do, as I continue to read into this, there's a lot of personal opinion, ironically enough, that I could give to it and could go off and expound in different areas. But I thought it was very important to present the information as it is in the book, because one of the things that I want to stress to everybody in the room and everyone that's going to hear the recording, the school leaders, is to continue to help educate, inform, and to provide formation to the fourth day community. And if I go off on tangents of my own personal opinions, then I think that lessens and weakens that from occurring. So I ask you, like we do in all Cursillo things, to have an open mind, to listen. If I say something that you disagree with or you thought wasn't correct, please wait to the end or ask me or go through it. I didn't use any words that I have written down that aren't in the book. So that's what I just wanted to share. Okay. So this is a completion of the fundamental ideals. And it's really talking about how do we function as a Cursillo movement, and what is the organizational, and I use that I guess I would say air quotes for you there and everybody here, because we're not an organization, but let's go for it. So first, the service structure in the Cursillo movement. Number one, it's made up of people who are aligned and moving to achieve the Cursillo mission. Some structure is necessary, but it is not an organization. So when we think about this, we have to sit there and say, okay, it's made up of people. People have their own beliefs, ideals. We come together, but we're not an organization the way a corporation would be built. So what is the structure that Cursillo has provided, the Cursillo movement has provided for us to use? And that is literally the school leaders, which God bless you all for being here, that you're there tonight, and secretariat. They're the two formal organizations that have been developed, if you will, through the years to help support. The first is the School of Leaders. And there's a couple different ways to go through the book, but it goes through very simply. What is the nature? The nature is, it is the School of Leaders, again, is a community of Christians committed to living what is fundamental to being a Christian in their lives and their environment. I thought that was important to hear. See, we get into the what ifs and what do I do and who and what and the specifics, but that is the nature. The nature is committed to living what is fundamental to being a Christian in our lives and our environment. We must remember that, and this is again another line, and I'm paraphrasing, so not exact words, but a little bit, must be before, during and after our meetings. We must always have in our hearts, in our purpose, in our what we want to do, we're committed to living the fundamental of being a Christian before, during, and after. Not while we're here together and then go off and be something else. Not before gossiping and talking and doing those different things and then coming in here and being a Christian. Before, during, and after. And then it gets into what is the purpose? What is the purpose of the school leaders? To make possible the purpose of the Cursillo movement. Plain and simple. Why are you all here? You're all here for one reason, to make possible the purpose of the Cursillo movement. And that is to bring Christ to others. And ultimately, speaking a little bit out of turn, but ultimately to be able to answer the reason for our hope. And that's Jesus Christ. So the purpose, first, to make possible the purpose of Cursillo. How do we do that? First, with our leaders. You're all here. You're in the school leaders. You are leaders. Just like you learned on Cursillo weekend, whether you believe it or not, you are. We provide the ideals and the beliefs to help each other grow. Why are you here? To get the ideals and the beliefs to help us grow. Not just to tell everybody what they should think, what they should believe, but to get the ideals and beliefs to help others grow. What's the second part? To make possible the purpose of Cursillo in groups and ultras. We group tonight, but you all group on your own. We all go to ultras. That is a purpose of the school leaders, to be part of that and to help that. And what's the last or the third and maybe the first, depending on how you look at it, in your environments, in your everyday lives. Because as you will learn, we have to live out this in our lives, but we're not on the school leaders because we choose to be on the school leaders. We must first be leaders in our environments. When we're leaders in our environments, the natural progression is to be on the school leaders. And again, I will challenge everybody in your mind right now to look at to think of the definition of a leader. Who's bringing you closer to Christ? That's a leader in your life. Not the one who's making you the most money, finding you the best car. Leader in my life is who's bringing me closer to Christ. So we talk about the purpose, the dimensions, holiness, communion, formation. So you have holiness. This is our first and fundamental human vocation. Holiness is the first and fundamental human vocation and is also has to be that of this school. Holiness needs to be that of this school. So when you listen to Father, you listen to the study, and again, we'll talk about this a little bit later. It's formed up to doctrinal. I said it right this time, doctrinal, and then a little bit of the method and how we apply it to our lives. So, the next phrase in holiness was, imitate Christ in prayer, living the Beatitudes, love as your basic principle, and always in service of others. We're talking about who are we as school leaders. This is what we are. Holiness has to be one of the dimensions. Imitate Christ in prayer. What did Christ always do? He went to prayer first, always. Do I? No. I'm going to continue to strive to be better, but live in the Beatitudes. Love as a basic principle. Love as a basic principle. Not, what do I see wrong in you? Love as a basic principle. I was just pointing, it wasn't directed at anything. Nothing wrong. Communion, appreciation of others and their talents given to them by God. And I will say that is my phrase in there. It didn't use those words, but it said communion and it went on about appreciation of others and different things. But I think truly what it means to me, appreciation for the talents. If I firmly believe that God gave us all specific talents and I'm supposed to live them out, then they gave them to everybody else. And my job is to appreciate them. Not figure out what mine are and that you don't possess. What you have, and I have to appreciate that. Formation, call to grow and bear fruit. This is so very important. Call to grow and bear fruit. If we do not bear fruit, we must question our formation. There's a bunch of different definitions that they go into of formation. Human formation, spiritual formation, doctrinal formation, and social formation. And you guys can all grab and think about those different ones. Human formation, okay, spiritual, doctrinal, and social. But I think the most important was the beginning of that whole thing where they talked about you have to bear fruit. Again, this is my paraphrase. If we're not bearing fruit, we must question. If my formation is not bearing fruit, human, spiritual, doctrinal, and social. Members of the school. Who are members of the school? Anyone? This is so important. Who's a member of the school leaders? Anyone who accepts the mission of evangelizing the church from the specific vision of the Cursillo movement. Not someone that believes the way I do. Anyone who accepts the mission and evangelization of the church from the specific vision of the Cursillo movement. And we all know what that is, and we'll get into it a little bit later. People who are aware and become, or are willing to become aware of the three stages. Pre, Cursillo, post. Think about the school leaders, think about secretariat, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but the secretariat and the different positions and what we're trying to do, pre-Cursillo, the Cursillo weekend, and our fourth day community. People that are aware, great, want to grow, or are willing to become aware and evangelize. And again, I mentioned this earlier, must be a leader in your environment. It did mention, it said you need to be a leader in environment. And by the way, there, young man with your phone, look at me. You're a leader in your environment. You're a leader in your environment. You know that. You bring me closer to Christ. Organization of the school. It does not follow. It was interesting. Again, like I said, I'm just writing down. It does not follow a specific form in organization. The operation, organization or operation, but must maintain the essentials of holiness, communion, or formation. So the organization of the school doesn't have to follow a specific set rules. Again, my word's not what it said, but it must follow the essentials of holiness, communion, and formation. And then it goes further. It says it is determined by the local needs, possibilities, and the realities of the local, and I put diocese. It says local church, but local diocese. So what do we need as an organization to form? It allows that flexibility to say, what do we need to do to make our realization of the Cursillo movement what God intended? And it says all is not the same or uniform. So that's really the school leaders. Secretariats. Again, it breaks it down to a couple different regions. But first and foremost, so everybody, if you don't know, it's a service structure. We're always in service. School leaders, secretariats, all that, it's in service. We're not here to dictate, to rule, but we're here in service. So we're custodians of the identity. Secretariat now, I apologize, just to make sure we're on the same page. Custodians of the identity of the Cursillo movement. We're the local custodians. We promote action and evangelization. Make real integration of the Cursillo movement in the church. That's what we're trying to do. Make it real in our church, in our everyday lives. Secretariat has the responsibility and authority. I thought that was just two great words. Responsibility and authority as specifically given by the bishop. Again, we know that, to promote the Cursillo method. It's formed by, Secretariat is formed by members of the Cursillo leaders, priests, or the religious. And always, although I don't think anybody would challenge us, we're always working as a team. Secretariat is always working as a team. And then you have a couple different, that's the basic concept of secretariats, if you will. And then it digs into the diocesan. The diocesan, confirmed by the bishop, develop a strategy and a method for the Cursillo movement locally, schedule and run the Cursillo weekends, the Cursillo process, encourage an active participation in the fourth day. So what is the function of Secretariat? Develop a strategy and a method for the Cursillo movement in the local community, schedule and run the weekends, and encourage the active participation after the weekend. I'm using my words, not theirs, after the fourth day. How are we encouraging, promoting, supporting, providing opportunities for people to live their fourth day? What is membership? Membership on Secretariat. They're members of the school, selected by the fourth day community, approved by the bishop. Members of the school, selected by the fourth day community, approved by the bishop. Then we get into national. So you have diocesan, so you have secretariats, you have diocesan, there's, I don't even know how many, someone said it, 200 and some odd around the country, but diocesan, and then you have national. What is national? The nature, again, service structure, recognized at an Episcopal conference for a way to strengthen the communion, participation, and guidance of the Cursillo method. What is national trying to do? What is their purpose? What is their nature? I want to use the language of the book. The nature is to strengthen the communion, participation, and guidance of the Cursillo method, or the Cursillo movement. How do they function? What is their service? Coordinate and relate Cursillo methods for the movement to the community and strengthen it. So national is to coordinate and relate it so in our community so we can strengthen it. Support the diocesan secretariats. National is there to support us. Maintain active communication with other national secretariats and international groups. So national is to reach out, maintain that communication so they understand what's going on in the world. Be total different, well, I won't go there because we're in TV and the Ukraine war and all that. But I was just saying, if you didn't know what was going on in another continent, different things, their role is to help maintain that communication so we're informed. So you have diocesan, national, and then there are international structures. There's an actual, so diocesan, we're here, national, and then you have the international structure. They're actually called international groups. An international group is there to represent the national secretariats at the Episcopal Conference. So our national is part of a international group. That international group represents at an Episcopal Conference. They support the OMCC. They assist in promotion within countries. So part of our international group's responsibility is to promote globally. And so if I just share that if it's should say a desire, calling that you feel that you're getting from Christ and those different things, that might be an opportunity that you go through and want to be able to be part of. But it's part of what our international structure, our international group does. They assist and promote in other countries. So there is the world body of Cursillo in Christianity. That is the OMCC, the world body of Cursillo in Christianity. What is their nature? Again, nature, function, structure. Nature, they are the coordinating body of the Cursillo method for the whole world. What's the function or service? Again, although I apologize, I didn't put that in there. They are a service organization. We are all service organizations, but their function and service is to be a place for communion and participation of all international groups, developing unity on a universal scale. I thought that was pretty cool. You know, we all think about what are we trying to do and what am I trying to do here? I read that say, you know, I might say, I want you to do this. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you saying this? Well, my function is to provide communion and participation of all international groups, developing unity on a universal scale. It meant something to me. Keep Cursillo faithful to the church and the magisterium of the church. I thought that was profound too. We get caught up in all the things that we're doing. What is the ultimate thing that we always need to remember? We're faithful to Mother Church and the magisterium of the Catholic Church. So what's the structure? The structure, they have executive committee, and then they have executive committees of all the international groups. That's who makes up this body. There's a headquarters. That headquarters has an opportunity to move every 4 years, and they do it based upon a ballot. The executive committee is determined by the country in which that executive committee, where it sits. So the executive committee would then choose, the country would then choose who's on the executive committee, but every international group is part of, and they're all part of that committee. And then last, we have world encounters. There's world encounters. They're called periodically. I thought this was interesting. There is not a set time when they need to have a world encounter, but they're called periodically when historical circumstances call for global reflection. And I know I'm about 6 minutes late, but one of the things that I thought was important, because we hear it all, I remember it all weekend long with Mike Cursillo, about prayer, reflection, and those things. And that's what read through this entire book, that entire chapter that I was going through, that it is calls for these world encounters called periodically when historical circumstances call for global reflection. How often do we have that internally here? How often do we have just opportunities for ourselves to pause for reflection? And then it went back to imitate Christ in prayer. how often do I rush to judgment or rush to different things? Again, I'm giving a little bit of my own 2 cents here, but this is what it was speaking to me and saying that. So I've said this often on the weekends when I have to do Arroyo, that God asked you to do what you need to learn. So I think he asked me to do this so I could help learn and school myself in what I needed to do. But take Lord's.
Thanks so much.
I just make, so one thing that's different about the United States, and I think maybe we're the only ones. Most other countries